Maxie, I've been thinking, should we do season 3 on the Dr. Joe show? You sure? You sure it's a good idea? You know, that's what I'm talking about. Let's see. ML2. Awesome fucking channel, dude. Big fan. I'm smoking less than a year. Found the channel a few weeks ago, and I'm on information overload. Can't get enough. Great work. Keep them coming. Absolutely. You're welcome. Great channel. Doggy Man 1111. Great channel. A real YouTube gem. Hope your subscriber base continues to increase. Well, I hope so too. Let's try to get a few more in here. Joe, just wanted to thank you for your recommendation of finest Cuban cigars. I just received a box of Bolivar Belicoso Finos amongst 5 other boxes and about 7 singles so I could sample what they smoke and taste like without having to take it out of the box. I knew immediately, yep, these are real. I never had any doubts anyways, no spidey senses going off, which always happens when you get anything that might be off. I've noticed that most Cubans all have a similar taste though, even though that taste is far superior to non-Cuban cigars, so I'm not complaining. Well, yeah, they all have, yes, there is a certain underlying tone that most Cuban cigars have. I don't know about it being superior to all other cigars, it's, you know, it's just a different taste. But you do get a wider flavor and strength range within the non-Cuban cigars. Do you feel the same way? Oh, so you're saying you like the taste, that you think the taste is superior, but you think you get a wider flavor and strength range within non-Cuban cigars. Wider strength range? Yes. I think, and it's only because, look, there's 27 Cuban cigar brands, not counting the 3, ITC brands. There's got to be 1,000 fucking non-Cuban cigar brands. 1,000. I mean, I don't know. Even, okay, maybe not 1,000, but what, 400, 500, 600? I mean, counting sub-brands and sub-lines, maybe 1,000. There's so many. Of course you're going to get a wider range of strength profiles. And flavor range, well, as far as blends go, first of all, you can have Dominican puros, Nicaraguan puros, Honduran puros, fucking puros from anywhere, and then you can have cigars that are part Nicaraguan, part Dominican wrapper on a Nicaraguan filler, or vice versa, or a Honduran wrapper, or a Nicaraguan Honduran blend, or Ecuadorian wrapper on a Dominican cigar, Ecuadorian wrapper on a Nicaraguan cigar. I mean, God, it never ends. So you're gonna have a lot of different, just like all Cuban cigars have, right? And then all Nicaraguan cigars have a similar, right? And all Dominican cigars have a similar. But then once you start taking Nicaraguan, Dominican, and mixing it, and they have a thing, and there's so many different things. I mean, yeah, you're gonna have. But as far as a single cigar goes, complexity-wise within the tobacco, good Cuban tobacco that's been aged proper, nice. Man, the flavor range, the range can be unbelievable. The highs and lows are just fucking incredible. As deep as it goes, and the twang and the bells and whistles, the complexity can be off the charts, really. I would say that out of all the cigars I smoke, I think Cuban cigars happen to be the most complex when they're good, Europa H2O Alien. What drives me absolutely insane with these sticks is the inconsistency of the notes and flavor. Perhaps 3 to 5 from the box will be grand slams, while the rest are bombs with horrible finish and aftertaste. Seems to me they need to work quite a bit on quality control. Wow, this is a pretty good cigar. Pretty good. But not complex. So he was talking about the Flor de las Antilles review. Yeah. Personally, 3 to good, 5 ones that are good in a box, and the rest are bombs. Grand slams, I don't know. I've never had a grand slam with that cigar. I don't know about quality control. I think the quality is great. And his tobacco is obviously great because it's the same tobacco that is in Tatuaje cigars. It's the blend. It's the blend. You know, that's what I was trying to explain in that episode. Pete Johnson has Pepin Garcia, My Father Cigars, create his cigars. And they're awesome. They taste awesome. Then Pepin Garcia has his blends using the same tobacco, using his company that Pete Johnson uses. And the cigars come out and I don't like them. Didn't like Flores Antilles. I don't really care for My Father. You know. So it has to do with the person's taste. What they like. You know. Pete Johnson is having blends created that he thinks are great. Pepin is having blends created that he thinks are great. You know, your palate is going to tell you one or the other. Both maybe, but you're going to like one a little more or a little less. And for me, well, I like Tatuaje a lot more and Pepin's blends a lot less. But that's just me. Well, it's not just me, actually, because when I did that review, I had a load of people who felt exactly the same way. So, here's a guy, Jimnick Ifisi? I can't even read his name. Ready from the paper, noob. Oh, reading from the paper. You meant reading. You meant reading from the paper. This is a Monte Cristo episode, long time ago. Yeah, I have my notes. I have my notes, and you know my episodes are so long and there's so much information. I go, okay. I get a little little place. Where am I? Oh yeah, I was talking about boom. Reading from the paper, noob. Noob. You're a noob. You're a fucking noob. You know, I can tell just because you use that word. You're probably between 16 and 21 years old. Dropped out of high school, or if you did finish high school, you definitely didn't go to college. You smoke pot because you think it's cool. You don't have a girlfriend. You play World of Warcraft all fucking day long. And you're a loser. Noob. So fuck you. Ready from the paper. Yeah, you're ready from the paper, all right. Anyway, to each his own. I'm a noob. I'm a fucking noob. Noob. You're a noob, man. Fucking noob. You're such a noob. You're such a noob. Fucking hate hipsters, man. Peter Milenkovic. Hello, Joe. Just wanted to say good job. You're the only one from the U.S. that knows Cubans and have the right information. Also, I like your realistic approach when it comes to comparing Cubans and non-Cubans. And if you ever come to Serbia, Belgrade, me and my friend from La Casa del Habano will be more than happy to sit together and have a nice Cuban cigar. Well, that is really, really nice of you. If I ever come to Serbia, I will be sure to look you up. That's a long trip, my friend. But I tell you, it always makes me feel good to see people from overseas complimenting my knowledge of Cuban cigars and things like that. Because, you know, hey, look, not to be, you know, I'm definitely not the only one in the U.S. He goes, you're the only one in the U.S. That's very kind of you. I'm definitely not the only one in the U.S. I've had people tell me that, yeah, you know, look, I just know what I know. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. I love it. I have a passion for it. I involve myself in obtaining all the knowledge I can about it, you know, and, yeah, I try to be very fair in comparison with Cubans and non-Cubans. I think there are great cigars on both sides of the fence. And that's that. So thank you very much, Mr. Peter Milenkovic. That was very kind of you. I'm at the end of my Vegueros here, nubbing this thing. So a couple more and then we're going to go. Johnny Can of Soda. Johnny Can of Soda. Getting fancy with the spills. Why don't you class up the joint and get a nice table cutter? You shouldn't cut a Cuban with a dime store cutter and split it like a $5 hooker. LMAO. No offense, bro. I love your show and you do great things. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad you love the show. It's not a dime store cutter. It's actually a palio cutter. Far from being a dime. I wish they were. These are great. These things are great. It is the only cutter I carry. It's the only way. Since, you know, when I first started, so, however long ago, you know, I went through quite a few cutters. And then I came into the palio. And since then, nothing else. It's got ultra thin blades, ultra sharp blades, and that's what I like about it. And they seem to really hold up well and not dull too much. Only now after using it, geez, man, I mean, since the start of the show, since we first started reviews on the show, and all those cigars in between, and I had it about maybe a year and a half, 2 years prior to that. Only now is it starting to stick up, you know, and I've never washed it, never tried to clean off the blades or anything, so that might help. But it gives a great cut, gives a wonderful cut. In fact, I remember showing this cutter in detail during the Cigars 101 episode I did about cutting your cigar. So I love it. They cost about anywhere from $49.95 to $100, depending on how fancy you want to get. This is the faux carbon fiber model, and it's a great cutter. Great cutter. It will never split your cigar if you're cutting right. That's for sure. You know, the blades are super thin, super sharp, and it's just not going to happen. I agree. You should definitely not use a cheap cutter. Don't spend $10, $5, whatever, you know, $2, and get some really cheap piece of shit cutter and start cutting your best cigars with them. Eventually, you're going to fuck one of them up. You know, even cheaper cutters work good, but the problem with them is they start to get dull real fast. You know, most of the money on a good cutter goes into the blade, until you're talking about $300, $400, $500 cutters, when most of the money goes into the name. You know, so Palio is a great middle ground. They work great. So table cutter, however, not a bad idea, but you know, we'll think about it. Maybe one day I will, but I just want to let you know, this is not a piece of shit cutter. So looks can be deceiving, my friend. And I think that's about it. Oh, and that's right. The one last comment I'm going to go into, when I was looking, okay, so all right, so we're going to wrap it up, but one more comment before we do, and this is the one I was talking about that will help us segue into our next episode. And for some reason, when I read this comment in my head, I start thinking of, who's the kid, who's the little kid from Indiana Jones 2? I don't know why, but I hear him say, Lone Crap Shooter 67. Good news today, Dr. Joe. Good news. Obama opening up embassy in Cuba and will be working with Congress to lift the embargo! Exclamation, 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 exclamation. Woo! Did you see the press conference? Let's get it done. We came a long way today, Dr. Joe, but still have a ways to go. Good news. Cause for celebration. That's terrible news! Oh, I'm so depressed! That is terrible news. Absolutely awful. But we're not going to get into why now. Save that for the next episode. And this cigar is definitely done. It's just kind of smoldering out here. Yep, it's done. I nubbed it down. Fairly good. And what can I say? The last third was really no different than the second third. The last third was really no different than the second third. The biggest change in this cigar was about halfway through, after the first third or about halfway through, when the flavors really started deepening them up. Honestly, no signs of youth or anything like that. I didn't get any anyway, and you know, I mean, it didn't taste like a well-aged cigar or anything, but it didn't taste so much like a very young cigar either. All in all, it tasted like a good, standard Cuban cigar. In a little bit of a way, and not blend-wise, so that's why I'm thinking I don't want my words to be misconstrued. In a way, it reminds me of a Juan Lopez Selección No. 2. Because the Juan Lopez No. 2 is one of the most standard staples you can get as far as Cuban cigars go. It's recommended to beginners all the time, as is the Monte No. 4, which is like the #1 best-selling cigar in the world. But the Juan Lopez No. 2 is very, very often recommended to beginners because it gives one a good sense of what Cuban tobacco is like, without all the bells and whistles, without all the complexity, without all the extras. Just good Cuban tobacco. That's where the similarities end. I do feel that the Juan Lopez No. 2 is a better cigar, especially when given some time. But we don't really know that about this cigar yet because it hasn't been given any extra time. If I had to say so, I'd think it's probably not the most ideal candidate for aging or anything like that. What it is an ideal candidate if you want an everyday cigar and you don't want to spend a ton of money. If you like Cuban tobacco, if you like Cuban flavor, but you don't want to spend an arm and a leg, and you also don't want like 4 cigars. I mean, shit, $130, 16 cigars, nice format, almost a Robusto size. So is this cigar anything like a Juan Lopez No. 2? No, it's not anything like a Juan Lopez No. 2, except in the way that, in fact, it's very different, except in the way that it's just plain Cuban tobacco without all the bells and whistles, without all the complexity, without all the frills. It gives one a good sense of what Cuban tobacco is like. This is not an expensive cigar. 16 cigars for $130. Cheap, well-made, handmade, long filler. Who I would not recommend these cigars to? Anybody looking for, the best flavors in the world with the highest level of complexity or anything like that. This cigar basically has no complexity. Very, very uncomplex cigar. The flavors only get deeper because tar builds up and, resins build up, and as it gets shorter, it burns hotter. So, maybe there's a little something in there from blend changes as far as the blend is concerned, but not much. This cigar was never made to be anything super fancy. So basically, the new Vegueros holds true to the roots of the old Vegueros. It was a cigar made by Cubans, for Cubans, for the workers, for the farmers, and for social events when the big important hotshot dignitaries weren't attending. In other words, it was a cigar made without using all the fancy high-end tobacco that needed to be exported. And the same principle kind of holds true today. This is a cigar made for the smoker, made for the guy who needs to smoke 2, 3, 4, 10 cigars a day, and all the good high-end tobacco is tucked away for 7 years and aged and made into boxes for people who can afford to spend $1,500 in a shot. And that really is the only thing that is the same as far as new Vegueros, old Vegueros. Graphic design, boxing, labeling, all of that stuff has changed. Even the blend has changed. The blend on the new Vegueros is not the blend of the old Vegueros. In fact, the old Vegueros used to be a very strong cigar, or on the stronger side. This is a medium-bodied cigar. But all in all, as a cigar smoker, I enjoyed it. I really did. I found it to be very pleasant, unobtrusive. It doesn't demand your attention. You can just smoke these whenever, whyever, for whatever. Who cares? And that's the end of that. Hope you enjoyed this episode. I did. I know I did. And let's wrap it up with a final rating. And there you have it, folks. Our Vegueros Entretiempos, all smoked up. Forgot what I was smoking there for a minute. Entretiempos, by the way, I did not mention it this entire episode, translates to halftime. That via Google Translate. So if I'm incorrect, please don't blame me. If you type them in as separate words, you get between times. But the vitola is actually one word, Entretiempos, halftime. If that's correct, I suppose their idea behind that concept was, another sporting event cigar, like with all the Monte Cristo Open Series. Say you're watching a game and it's halftime and you want to smoke a cigar, kill some time, chat with your friends, whatever. You don't want something that's going to demand your attention, that you're not going to want to put out, that I know how to make a cigar sound good, don't I? You know what I mean. You know what I mean. A cigar that's good. Good enough for you to enjoy, but not so good that you're going to be really upset if you have to put it out in the middle or ditch it. Anyway, and cheap enough to do so with too. Anyway, that being said, appearance, 0.75. Average, let's just put it this way. A 0.5 appearance, as far as my little rating system goes, would be once the wrapper starts to have unseemly observable defects, green spots, sunspots, things that you don't want on a wrapper, sometimes natural, maybe even not. But that's what that would be. We've never had a 0.5 appearance cigar thus far, but you never know what the future holds. So a 0.75 would be average, basic looking cigar. Nothing really fancy there, but nothing bad either. Burn, construction, and draw all get a perfect 1. This cigar was very well made. It burned well, very even, draw was very nice, nothing wrong there, not too loose, not too tight. Therefore, construction great. And as I said before, this cigar was packed like a freaking baseball bat. It was really hard. Not hard, dry hard, but just dense as fuck. I don't know how else to put it. So dense, I expected the thing to draw like crap, but it didn't. It was great. Pre-draw flavor, 0.5. Again, average. Nothing fancy, but there was some good flavor there. Overall flavor, 1.5. The cigar did pick up a lot entering the second, third. Flavors got deeper, more intense, but all the way throughout, medium pretty much, maybe a little mild in the beginning. Aroma, 0.5. Again, nothing fancy. Standard Cuban cigar aroma. Very floral, very nice, but pleasant. Pleasant to the senses. Nothing unpleasant, but nothing that knocked me out of my seat either. Let's see. Balance, 1. Very well balanced cigar. Went from mild medium to medium, and then at the very end, just a little bit over medium, a little bit of a kick in the end. Just enough to satisfy me. Complexity, that's the low right here, 0.25. This is an extremely uncomplex cigar. If it was a problem, it would be 2 + 2 equals. Very, very simple cigar. Straightforward, nothing fancy, no bells or whistles, no frills, just your basic tobacco flavor. I enjoyed it. As a cigar smoker, as somebody who smokes 2 cigars a day, 3 cigars a day, maybe more if I have the time, I really enjoyed it. So that brings us to our final rating of 7.5. Good, no frills Cuban tobacco and everyday smoke. That's what I wrote because that's how I feel. 7.5 on the Dr. Joe Show is not a bad score at all. Please keep in mind that our rating system is a little different here. A little bit different. 7.5 for us is not equivalent to a 75 in, say, Cigar Aficionado. It's not the same thing. You have to keep in mind that it really counts heavily on where the points are distributed. For instance, let's say complexity was a 1. Then you would have the score of 8.25. Say appearance was a 1. Now you're up to 8.5. So if you don't care what the cigar looks like, and you don't want a complex cigar, you just want a good cigar, then consider this an 8.5. It's a very good, no frills, straightforward Cuban cigar. Anyway, that's enough out of me, folks. Time to go. Got a lot of work to do because coming up next is a topic on everyone's mind, and I'm sure you will want to come back and join us for that. Until then, happy trails, keep on smoking. Say goodnight, Max.